That's why they call me bad company. I can't deny bad company. Today I die.
All right, welcome to the W2W review. I am the Knight, and joining me, as always, from his LA studios is the Raider Pirate. What's going on, Pirate?
What's going on, Raider Nation?
All right, Raider Nation. Today is November 3rd, 2016. We are getting ready to cover the Denver Broncos heading into Oakland Coliseum on Sunday Night Football national television. It's going to be a great matchup. 6-2, both teams. This is going to be for the top position of the AFC West. Now, we do also need Kansas City to lose somehow, so we got to keep an eye on that. But to kick things off today, we want to dive into an article that was released yesterday about Derek Carr and how Derek Carr is not the quarterback we think he is, which we find quite hilarious, to be honest with you. So, Pirate, what do you got as far as this article and what this guy has to say about Derek Carr?
Yeah, so we had some technical difficulties yesterday, and so, this article came out yesterday, but I saw it everywhere. I saw it on Facebook. I saw it listed on people's personal pages on Google+. People were even talking about it on television, certain YouTube videos that I was watching. So I thought it was important, even though we had the I can't even say technical difficulties yesterday. I thought it was important to retouch on this. Monday Morning Quarterback, basically a website that belongs to Peter King, wrote an article, and the guy Andy Benoit sort of pointed out that even though the Raiders are 6-2, and Derek Carr has thrown 17 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions, and people are throwing his name into the MVP conversation. And we're not talking about Raider fans here. We're talking, I saw it on SportsCenter. I saw it on ESPN. I saw it on the NFL Network, where people are looking at it and saying Matt Ryan, Derek Carr, and obviously having missed 4 games, Tom Brady's a little bit behind, but Tom Brady are the 3 guys that are in that conversation. He goes on to say, hey, this is what people do when you have a team that wins a lot and you have a quarterback that throws for a lot of yardage. This is just the natural thing to do. But hold on, guys. Hold on. He's missing a read or two. His footwork is not perfect. Basically, this third-year, 25-year-old kid is not playing at the level of a 15-year veteran like Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees, guys of that nature. He puts in there that, you'll watch Derek Carr miss some wrong reads. He'll stay on some reads for too long and get off reads too early. And that you just never see the upper echelon quarterbacks. Let's push aside the 513 yards. It's only 1 week, and it's against the Bucs. Let's put aside the fact that he's named Player of the Week, and that everybody says he's one of the best young up and coming quarterbacks. That the other quarterbacks that were taken in the first round ahead of him all have not produced very much. And in fact, that even the following year, guys that were taken 1 and 2 overall, he's outplayed both. All of that aside, basically he's just he has poor footwork. And he misses open reads. But I think that you can say that about most young quarterbacks. And, we're going to get into this, but I think that it also has to do with the system, the coaching, and what this team really wants to do. But he says a very telling thing. He says, hey, look, even though he's doing good, basically, let's be clear, all this analysis falls under the banner of a higher standard than Derek Carr should be held to. So he starts off the premise of the article by saying, hey, look, we shouldn't even be having this conversation, right? In my opinion, we shouldn't be having this conversation because even though he's gifted enough to one day be a top-tier quarterback, he's not there yet, and that he's got to sharpen his play. And he also says that, you have to look at some of the things that Derek Carr does that you cannot, that there's no metric that you can use to kind of look at the mistakes that he's making or the reads that he's staying on too long or whatever. And again, both of these things starts off by saying, hey, wait a minute. First of all, we probably shouldn't be talking about this. And second of all, there's no metric that we can actually use to prove that what I'm saying right now is actually accurate.
This article to me is borderline a joke. And the only reason it's borderline is because you could take some of the things that he's saying and take it into consideration. It was only one game. But if you look at his body of work from the time he's entered the league until now, and you take into consideration, like you said, this is a 25-year-old young man in his third year in the National Football League, a second-round pick, and you look at guys like Bridgewater, who's injured and not playing. You look at Blake Bortles over there in Jacksonville, whose numbers consistently, he struggles the first half, and he usually picks it up the second half because they're only a 2-win football team right now. So he's got nothing to lose, so he'll start slinging it like he did last year, where his numbers jumped up. But Derek is the consistent professional here. And you look at his numbers, pick one, pick his passing yards, they go up every single year. Pick up his touchdown numbers, they go up every year. Pick up his interceptions, they go down every year. And his win-loss record, I mean, his first year, they went 3-13. Okay, you can put that as a mark against him. But then he comes back the next year, and he adds 4 games to it, and they go 7-9. And already this year, we're at 6-2, heading into an AFC West matchup against the Denver Broncos, who are also 6-2. We're one game away, halfway through the season, to him totaling the number of wins he got last year. So no matter how you break this down, how you want to look at Derek Carr, what you think of Derek Carr, this guy is in the conversation because of his body of work. This guy continues to get better. And I say this all the time. If everything was that easy, if it was so easy to get under center or stand in shotgun and take the ball and see the whole field like a robot and see that Amari Cooper's open down the right side of the field while you're looking at your hot read on the other side of the field, then there's no reason to play these games, because if you're going to be that perfect, why even play the game, right? I mean, he's going to see everything. He's going to do everything right. So does he have his faults? Yeah. Even Tom Brady has his faults, guys. We could take Tom Brady film and break him apart too. We could take Drew Brees' film apart and break him down. So I guess this guy just felt the need, because he's being talked about as MVP caliber. He's elite now. I'll be the first one to say he is MVP quality right now. But there's 8 games to play, so I do believe it's premature to talk heavy that Derek Carr should be MVP of the league with 8 games to go. But I have no problem talking about how elite this guy is becoming, and that he is on his way to becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Once Tom Brady retires, once Drew Brees retires, once Ben Roethlisberger hangs it up and he's done, Derek Carr is going to be a household name who's winning football games, going into playoffs, and yes, even having a chance to win multiple Super Bowls. So, pick your poison here, but this article is borderline a joke, because Derek Carr has done nothing in the big picture of things to say that he's not even elite at this point. This guy is becoming elite, and the league should be watching out for Derek Carr.
Yeah, and, they also go in, he also points out, like I said earlier, also apparent on film, there are snaps almost every week when Carr doesn't read the field clearly or patiently. The space with which he makes his reads can be erratic. At times, Carr goes too fast, abandoning good reads before open receivers materialize. Other times, he stays on bad reads too long, which leads to other open receivers being missed. These are critical mistakes that cannot be captured by any statistical metric, no matter how advanced. And they're the types of mistakes that you almost never see from a Tom Brady, a Drew Brees, or a Ben Roethlisberger. So again, you don't know, you know the play, the basics of the play. You know the basics of the defense. You don't necessarily know what the pre-snap was. You don't necessarily know what the hot is. Again, based on just general offense and defense, you can surmise. But to think that you can sit here and say on this particular play, Derek Carr missed this guy. When Derek Carr goes back to the sideline, I can guarantee you that Bill Musgrave is probably telling him, that's good. That's what we wanted. Yep, I know. Amari Cooper was open. That's okay. We're setting him up for our next play. We're watching how they're playing this guy. We're seeing if, in fact, they're going to be playing this guy zone. So this offense is what it is, and we talked about that. This is a jabbing offense that is going to make you defend the entire field. Musgrave is going to come out, and he's going to continue to pick and to prod. We may not like that. We may want him on every single play to go after the open guy and hit the touchdown on every play. But what Bill Musgrave is doing is he's saying, we're going to force you to defend the whole field. We're going to use these short passes to pick up 1, 2, or 3 yards, just like we would a run play. So when we get so upset, why aren't they running the ball? Why don't they do this? We have to understand that draw play that he's running is a run play. That screen pass is a run play. And what we're doing is we're forcing them to understand it. At any point, we can go anywhere. You better be able to tackle well, because we've got athletes. We've got guys that can do it. And we've all said it. Raider Greg said it perfectly. He's a yak type of guy. Again, Do I love it? No, I don't love it. I would much rather we go out there and take what it is that we want. But you have to respect the fact that just because one guy's open on a random play and you catch that, you can't run back to your computer and start typing in why Derek Carr is not an elite quarterback. What did he do at the end of that game? What does he do in the fourth quarter? What does he do on fourth down? What is he doing in the red zone? It doesn't matter what you do up until those points. What's important is, can you produce when it's on the line? Can you be a 2-minute guy? Can you be like Kenny Stabler? And I will, again, before I throw it back to you, present these points to you. He says that, you never see this type of thing from Tom Brady. If you looked at Tom Brady's first couple of years, probably before the 4th Super Bowl, Tom Brady was not Tom Brady. He wasn't the guy that he is today. And nowhere close to it, right? If you looked at Drew Brees, he was with Marty Schottenheimer, with the Hall of Fame running back. It wasn't until he got together with Sean Payton that they really opened it up and started doing some different things. And Ben Roethlisberger, again, came from a ground and pound when they brought him in. And then they began to open it up, and then he started throwing the ball all over the place. So each of these quarterbacks kind of didn't come in and all of a sudden just, hey, by year 3, they were these incredible, prolific guys that they are now. What Ben Roethlisberger is doing today would have been impossible for third-year Ben Roethlisberger to do. I think the timing of this article, the fact that the Raiders are winning, the fact that, the guys being put into MVP consideration, the fact that the Raiders haven't won in such a long time, there's just no reason for an article like this. It's just gratuitous. It has no place in conversation. We should be looking at this and saying, wow, here's a kid that came, turned around a franchise, has clear leadership. While everybody else is complaining about the refs, he's saying, hey, man, the refs did a great job. We've got to do better. We have to do what we need to do. I mean, like I said, I think this article is it's just silly, and it's designed to make people get upset and drive even bad traffic to this website.
I'll even take it a step further as we close out this segment, and I'll say it like this. We've been known here on the Will to Win to be pretty hard on Bill Musgrave because we don't necessarily like the scheme, right? We want to take what we want. But we've had a lot of conversations, Pirate, over the last few weeks about Jack Del Rio's philosophy and how Bill Musgrave's scheme actually fits the philosophy of the head coach. And I'm going to give these guys a lot of credit right now because we talked about this yesterday. There's something to be said about Derek Carr's development. A lot of the times you draft a quarterback and you don't want to start him right away. This guy started as a rookie, and some of the concerns of Derek Carr was his footwork, his uncomfortableness inside the pocket, and the fact that he basically bases his talent level off his athleticism, which makes him want to be more like Brett Favre. I mean, it's been well stated that he's a Brett Favre fanatic, and he wouldn't mind being a Brett Favre, right? What this coaching staff done, and it goes back to Olsen, even though you had him 1 year, but Bill Musgrave came in, Jack Del Rio came in, and they set up a plan to put him in shotgun more, to slow the game down for him by using him in the shotgun, using a lot of checkdowns. Derek Carr's a company man, so he's going to go with whatever his coaches are telling him to do, and it's working. Okay, so he's developing it at the same time. So they're not putting too much on his plate. They're not asking him to be the gunslinger and throw the ball all over the field. They're basically saying, hey, just take it play by play, use your check downs, read the defense, look at your hot read, know where your players are at. Now, he's not going to be able to see the whole field every play. So I truly believe, and we mentioned this yesterday, that eventually at some point, and we might see it this year or for sure probably next year, as he hits into his fourth year, he's going to be so much more comfortable in the position. He's going to see so many defense over the course of the last 3 years. He's going to be really comfortable within the system that he's running now. And let's face it, this continues the rest of the season. We mentioned this yesterday to each other too. Bill Musgrave ain't going nowhere. The numbers are not going to allow him to go anywhere. So he should, if this continues, right, he's going to be back with Derek Carr next year. Third year inside this system. They're going to be able to open it up so much more. So they got an elite quarterback playing at a high level right now, but at the same time, they're giving him the opportunity and the time to become something special. They're not pushing him. They're not rushing him. They're not asking him to do too much. And when they unleash this guy, there's going to be some heck to pay, if you will, for opposing defenses, because this guy has all the skill sets. Anyway, that's why we think that article is pretty much a joke, and it was actually a fun piece to talk about. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to dive in more into this matchup Sunday night versus the Denver Broncos. 6-2, two 6-2 teams fighting for the top of the AFC West. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Carpets is celebrating the holidays with a huge inventory clearance sale. We have the best prices and guaranteed installation. Why would you buy anywhere else? Whether you're looking for laminate, vinyl, carpet, tile, or wood, we have it all. Save up to 50% on selected items. Room size rugs, only $69. Visit Carpets at one of our 6 Bay Area locations or call us at 1-800-355-4MMM.
All right, welcome to our Week 9 breakdown of the Denver Broncos versus the Oakland Raiders Sunday Night Football, brought to you and sponsored by Raiders401.com. All right, Pirates, so what do we got on the agenda as far as the Denver Broncos coming into O.co Sunday night on Sunday Night Football?
All right, well, welcome aboard, everybody. I'm the Raider Pirate, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at the team leaders on these teams so far, just so we can get a good idea of what we've got coming in. When you take a look at the quarterback matchups, we've got Derek Carr coming in against Trevor Siemian. Derek Carr, 2,321 yards, 17 touchdowns. Trevor Siemian, 1,487 yards, 8 touchdowns. I would say, outside of just the numbers, advantage probably goes to the Raiders. C.J. Anderson just put on injured reserve. It looks like Devontae Booker is going to be their running back. 70 carries, 298 yards, about a 4.3-yard average. Latavius Murray comes in as the Raiders' leading rusher, but he's closely followed by DeAndre Washington. They're splitting the load here. Murray, 69 carries, 279 yards. DeAndre Washington, 52 carries, 267 yards. Combined, they're at about 4.5 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns on the season. So once again, it looks like the advantage may go to the Raiders in terms of the running game. Receiving, Amari Cooper, 52 catches. Michael Crabtree, 47 catches. Cooper, 787 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cooper, 569 yards, 6 touchdowns. When you take a look at Emmanuel Sanders and Denarius Thomas, both very dangerous wide receivers. Sanders, 44 for 567, 3 touchdowns. Denarius, 42 for 535, 4 touchdowns. Once again, I think here the clear advantage goes to the Oakland Raiders in terms of personnel, offensive against offensive. If you look at the offensive comparisons here, total yards per game for the Broncos, 326.4, 401.6 for the Raiders coming off that big win against the Bucs. Passing yards, 285 yards per game, 221 for the Broncos. And then if you take a look, 116 yards per game for the Raiders, rushing 104.8. So offense to offense, clearly I think the advantage goes to the Raiders. But that's not the matchup that we're probably going to talk about. We'll probably be talking about offense versus defense. Your thoughts?
That is my key to the game, is this Raiders offense versus the Denver Broncos defense. Now, we know that they play fast. They got a very solid defense. They're really good on the outside. Their secondary is really strong, and they got great pass rushers on the edges. So they'll be able to set the edge and contain the outside. We like to throw to the sidelines. You know, they got Talib. They got Chris Harris. We got to be aggressive, but I think we need to be aggressive in the middle of the field. We need to utilize our tight ends. We need to use our running backs on wheel routes coming out of the backfield, and we need to use slants with Amari Cooper. We saw them really shine last week against Tampa Bay using Amari Cooper on the slant route. I think this is one of the keys to the games. This is the way that we need to attack this Denver Broncos defense, and as long as we be a little bit more aggressive in the middle of the field, I think that's what's going to give us the advantage heading into the fourth quarter of this matchup.
Yeah, and if you take a look at it, interestingly enough, you've got an offense. You've got Gary Kubiak, who's sort of an offensive genius, going against Jack Del Rio, who is a defensive-minded coach. You got a horrible offense coming in, playing against a not-so-good defense. They're getting better, folks. They are getting better. They're doing much better against the run. But is that the product of having played two Jacksonville teams that have struggled against the run, or is this team actually getting better? And I think they're going to be getting a lot better in the weeks coming up when you start getting players back. Potentially Aldon Smith, Mario Edwards Jr. coming back. But for this particular game, they have got to be sound against the run. They must seal the edges. Again, you can't ask for anything better with Anderson being out. He's a punishing rusher. But again, you got another big, strong punishing rusher in Booker. They've got to come up big, in my opinion. You've got to be able to shut down the run. I think Derek Carr, having seen this defense a couple of times in his young career, he understands what he can and he can't do. He's beginning to come out of his shell a little bit. I think they're going to play this kind of bend but don't break offense. I know we don't hear that very much, but it's sort of just keep on jabbing, throwing things out here like we talked about in the first segment, and wait for something big to happen. If this offensive line can do even a yeoman's job here of protecting Derek Carr, I think the Raiders are going to be able to pull this game out. Look, we talked about the Kansas City Chiefs being the big game. They were coming to the black hole. That was not the big game, folks. Sunday night in O.co. It's going down for real. I believe this team comes out. They laid an egg when they had an opportunity to take this division with a stranglehold. I believe they come out, and I believe they win this football game, and they go to first place in the AFC West.
And one of the other keys to make that happen defensively for the Oakland Raiders is they got to make sure that they make the Denver Broncos one-dimensional on offense. Like you said, they need to shut down Devontae Booker. They need to make sure that they're setting the edge, pushing him into the inside, and our big tackles are going to have to make plays, as well as our linebackers, Corey James and Riley Jr. These guys need to hit the gaps, really contain the run. Once they do that, that's going to put the ball in Simeon's hands. And this is where we need to see Khalil Mack and Bruce Irvin really come alive and get to Trevor Siemian and make him uncomfortable. As long as they could set the edges, contain the run, and make Trevian Siemian uncomfortable throughout this game, I think the Raiders defense could be improving like we've seen the last 2 weeks, and this is going to set the tone to make this what would be considered a shootout. But with the Denver Broncos defense so strong, it just gives the Raiders the advantage with the ability that Derek Carr has to really turn it up a notch in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, the only thing I see being a real problem, like you were talking about, they've got to get the ball into Simeon's hands. But the thing that I worry about the most are the bootlegs, coming back across the middle of the field, the tight ends catching balls, Virgil Green, some of these guys being able to catch balls and cut across. That hurt us big time in the Atlanta game. That also hurt us in the Chiefs game. Andy Reid basically went in there and changed up their game plan and said, hey, let's go back and let's do a little bit more of what Atlanta did against the Raiders. So if we can fix that problem, if we can make sure, and they haven't been able to get their tight ends involved in the game that much. I'm talking about Denver. And they do have a good one. Virgil Green is a good one. But the bottom line is this is the type of offense that we have trouble against. This is not a quarterback that stands back there. A running game that comes and pounds directly or tries to get to the outside. They've got tight ends that could come across the middle. This is the Shanahan offense that basically they did that Mike Shanahan's son is using in Atlanta and that Kubiak is basically using. So once again, the priority here is going to be to stop those outside runs, make sure that we can contain those edges. And like the Knight said, if we can do that, that's going to force them to have to throw the ball if we know where they're going and we can be stout and we can maintain the areas of the field that we should, I think we can shut down this attack, and that means that the offense is going to have to produce. So once again, I feel really good offensively that we can do this, utilize more of our running backs and tight ends like Atlanta did against the Broncos. It's funny that we're talking, both teams are going to be looking at Atlanta and saying, well, what did they do? How did they do it? So if we can learn from those mistakes, which I think we are, I think as a team we're learning from those mistakes, I think we have a fantastic chance. And again, I believe that the Raiders pull this game out and take first place in the AFC West.
And let's take a look at this real quick, guys. This is going to be the first game of the second half of the season. And to me, on record, on this whole schedule, the whole NFL, this is probably going to be the best game played thus far. You've got 2 6-2 teams out of the AFC West on national television, Sunday Night Football. These are two of the best teams in the AFC, let alone the AFC West. It's going to be a slobber knocker. You got the Denver Broncos defense versus the Oakland Raiders offense. You got Derek Carr trying to improve on what he did last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he set career highs for himself. You got Amari Cooper, who set career highs for himself, going up against guys like Aqib Talib, Chris Harris, TJ Ward. TJ Ward's already been on record to say that they're good wide receivers. They're not great wide receivers. So the hype is already getting built up. This is going to be a matchup of the ages, probably the best matchup thus far in the National Football League. And it's really going to set the tone for the rest of the season because all the cards are on the table. Whoever wins this game is going to be top of the AFC West and in control of their own destiny moving forward. So this is going to be a playoff atmosphere. It's going to be really intense. It's national television. It's Sunday Night Football. Derek Carr versus the Denver Bronco defense. I do see the moxie of this football team, the heart of this football team, the no quit. They constantly in a fight. They're constantly doing things to keep themselves in games and win games. That's the reason why we're 6-2. So this ought to be a great game. I got the Raiders pulling this one out. I think maybe they only win by a field goal. I think Janikowski finds a way to redeem himself from last week and kick a game winner in the fourth quarter. I say roughly, I think the Denver Broncos defense is good enough to kind of hold us under 30, but I say this could turn out to be a 24-21 victory, Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, and also look at it. The Raiders are a 1-point favorite. They've had trouble. They've struggled at home. This tells you a lot, folks. Most times the odds makers are going to give you 3 points just because you're playing at home. The Raiders have struggled mightily at home. There is no home field advantage. So clearly the odds makers in Vegas are thinking that we're good enough to be at least a 4-point favorite at this point. If they're giving us that +1, they really should be giving the Broncos +2 at this point, negating the home field advantage because we don't seem to have any. Like you said, I think this is the beginning of something different. We've put together a 3-game winning streak. We've put together a 2-game winning streak. We've won on the East Coast. We're 5-0 on the road. We're heading into the second part of the season. I think Jack Del Rio gets it right this week. This is the real game. They blew it. They understand they blew it against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're not going to make the same mistake again. Raiders, I think, big in this game. I think, and again, folks, big for the Denver Broncos is 10 points, right? It's a 10-point game. But I think the Raiders win by 10 points Sunday night.
All right. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. We wanted to make sure that you guys follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all at The Will to Win. You could also find us on or you can email us any questions and concerns at thewtw@gmail.com. And we want to remind you, you guys could tune in tomorrow to watch the show. We're going to continue our Denver Bronco Oakland Raider breakdown by bringing in our NFL insider, Louis T. from the Louis T. Network. So make sure you stay tuned for that show. It's really simple. Just hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell next to it to stay up to date to all the videos that we put out on a daily basis. For the Raider Pirate, I am the Oakland Knight, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay Raider strong.
And that's why they call me